We have reviewed dividing whole numbers, how to divide a decimal by a whole number, and now we're going to look at how to divide a decimal number by a decimal or even a whole number by a decimal. In order to make your problem something that we can work with, we have to change the divisor into a whole number. To do that, we multiply it by a power of 10, such as 10, 100, 1,000, any of those. This is the same as moving the decimal to the right. Whatever we do with the divisor, we have to do with the dividend. So we have to multiply by that same power of 10, which again is the same as moving the decimal to the right. Once we've moved those decimals to the right in both numbers, we can divide. Make sure you remember to bring the decimal directly above into the quotient. This is where that neatness is important. Make sure that you're keeping everything in order and nice and straight. You also have to remember that whatever you do to the divisor, you also have to do the same to the dividend. You have to do the same thing to both of those numbers. So we're first going to practice rewriting these problems so that we make sure we are moving our decimals correctly. Remember that the number that is outside, this is our divisor. This is the number of groups that we're making. And the number that is inside, this is the dividend. This is the number that we are putting an end to. We are breaking it apart into groups. Now the divisor is the number that is in charge. It tells us how many times we have to move the decimal point. So if I put my pencil on my decimal point in 1.2, I'm going to swoop one time to the right in my divisor, which then means I have to swoop one time to the right in my dividend. So essentially I've multiplied both of these numbers by 10. So now my problem becomes 863 divided by 12. This is a whole number divided by a whole number. We already know how to do that. So then look at number 2. We start with the divisor because it's the one that's in charge. I have to swoop my decimal point 2 places here, which means in my dividend I also have to swoop. There's no decimal point there because this is a whole number. With whole numbers, there's always a decimal point at the end. So now I'm going to draw that there and then I'm going to swoop twice, which leaves me with these 2 divots. So I'm going to fill in these 2 divots with zeros. So now my problem is 74,000 divided by 25, which again, I'm dividing by a whole number. I know how to do this. Look at number 3. Look at our divisor. There's no decimal in our divisor. So that means I don't have to swoop anything. I already have a whole number and I can divide by that whole number. So my problem is going to simply stay the same. Now that we know how to move that decimal point, let's go ahead and let's solve a few problems together. So here I have 210 divided by 3.5. 210 is my dividend and 3.5 is my divisor. So 210 goes inside the division bracket, 3.5 goes outside. My divisor, I have to swoop one time to make it a whole number, so that means I'm going to do the same in my dividend. 210 is already a whole number, so my decimal point is here, and I'm going to swoop once to the right and add a 0 to fill in that divot. So now my decimal point comes up top. From here, I want you to go ahead and pause this video and go ahead and work this problem out and then come back and check your work. You should have ended up with 60 as your answer. Let's look at the next one. We've got 856.8 that we are dividing by 8.4. So my divisor's in charge. I have to swoop one time here, which means I have to swoop one time here, and then I'm going to bring this up into my quotient. So now I have 8,568 divided by 84. Again, I want you to pause the video, work the long division, and then come back and check your work. All right, here you go. You should have ended up with, oops, I'm sorry, not 168 is our answer. I made a mistake there. 102 would be your answer. All right, let's look at this last one. We've got 58.42 divided by 0.92. I'm going to swoop 2 times in my divisor, which means I have to swoop 2 times in my dividend. And so now we have 5,842 divided by 92. One more time, I want you to pause the video, go in and work the problem out, and then come back and check your work. All right, so you should have ended up with 63.5. So we're solving them just like all of our other problems, which means we might have to add a 0 after those decimal points so that we don't end up with a remainder.